Chapter 2. If God has decreed my actions, then why does He hold me accountable for them? My friend spoke with an air of triumph, imagining he had caught me by the neck with no escape from this predicament. You claim that God governs everything in His dominion by divine decree and predestination, and that God has predetermined our actions. If this is the case, and all my actions are predestined by Him, then why does He hold me accountable for them? Do not tell me, as you usually do, that I have free will, for there's no greater falsehood than this. Let me ask you, did I choose my birth, gender, height, build, color, or homeland? Is it by my choice that the sun rises and the moon sets? Is it by my choice that divine decree descends and death surprises me, plunging me into tragedy? So I find no way out except through crime. Why does God compel me to an act and then hold me responsible for it? And if I were to tell you that you are free and that you have a will alongside God's will, would this not amount to shirk, associating partners with God, and lead to a multiplicity of wills? Then what do you say about the influence of environment, circumstances, and the determinisms asserted by historical materialists? My friend unleashed these verbal volleys and then breathed a sigh of relief, as if he thought I had perished and ceased to be, leaving him with nothing to do but prepare the shroud. I said to him calmly, "You are falling into several fallacies. Your actions are known to God in His book, but they are not forced upon you under compulsion. They are predestined only in His knowledge, just as you might know with your own knowledge that your son will commit adultery, and then it indeed happens. Did you compel him, or was this merely a predetermination in knowledge, and your knowledge proved correct? As for your talk of freedom, it is a misconception. Your proof for this is that you did not choose your birth, gender, height, color, or homeland, and that you cannot move the sun from its place. This is another confusion. The reason for the confusion this time is that you conceive of freedom in a way different from how we believers conceive of it. You speak of absolute freedom, saying, "Could I have created myself white or black, tall or short? Is it in my power to move the sun from its place, to halt it in its orbit? Where is my freedom?" And we say to you, you are asking about an absolute freedom, the freedom to manipulate the universe. This belongs to God alone. We too do not believe in this kind of freedom. And your Lord creates what He wills and chooses. Quran 28:68. They have no choice in the matter of creation. God creates what He wills and chooses. God will not hold you accountable for your shortness, nor reproach you for your tallness, nor punish you for not halting the sun in its orbit. But the realm of accountability is the realm of moral responsibility, taklif, and in this realm you are free. These are the boundaries within which we speak. You are free to suppress your lust, curb your anger, resist your base self, and thwart your evil intentions. You are free to encourage your good inclinations. You are capable of being generous with your wealth and your soul. You are capable of being truthful or lying. You are capable of keeping your hand from illicit wealth. You are capable of lowering your gaze from the private parts of others. You are capable of restraining your tongue from insults, backbiting, and slander. In this realm we are free, and in this realm we are held accountable and questioned. The freedom which is the subject of discussion is relative freedom, not absolute freedom. It is human freedom within the realm of moral responsibility. This freedom is a reality, and our evidence for it is our innate feeling of it within ourselves. We feel responsibility, remorse for error, and tranquility from good deeds. We feel at every moment that we are choosing and weighing multiple possibilities. Indeed, the primary function of our intellect is to evaluate and choose between alternatives.
We distinguish clearly and decisively between our hand trembling with fever and our hand writing a letter. We say the first movement is compulsory and involuntary, and the second movement is voluntary. If we were predetermined in both cases, we would not be able to differentiate. What confirms this freedom is the feeling of the impossibility of compelling the heart towards something it does not accept under any pressure. You can compel a woman by threat and beating to take off her clothes, but you cannot, by any pressure or threat, make her love you from her heart. The meaning of this is that God has exempted our hearts from all forms of coercion and compulsion, and He has created them free. This is why God made the heart and intention the basis of rulings. The believer who utters words of disbelief under threat and torture is not held accountable for that as long as his heart is inwardly content with faith. God has exempted him from punishment in His saying, "Whoever disbelieves in Allah after his belief, except for one who is forced to renounce his religion while his heart is secure in faith." Quran 16:106. Another aspect of confusion in this matter is that some people understand human freedom as being above the divine will and acting independently in command. Thus they accuse those who affirm freedom of committing shirk and setting up rivals to God, who judge like His judgment and command like His command. This is what you understood as well when you spoke of a multiplicity of wills, which is a mistaken understanding. Human freedom does not override the divine will. A human may, by his freedom, do what contravenes the divine pleasure by disobeying Him, but he cannot do what contravenes the divine will, mashiach. God has given us the freedom to rise above His pleasure by disobeying Him, but He has not given anyone the freedom to rise above His will. This lies another aspect of the relativity of human freedom. Everything that happens from us falls within the divine will and is subsumed by it, even if it contravenes the divine pleasure and diverges from the sacred law. Our freedom itself was a divine gift, a bestowal that God the Creator granted by His choice. We did not take it from Him by force or usurpy. Our freedom was precisely an expression of His will. Hence the meaning of the verse, "And you do not will except that Allah wills." Quran 76:30. Because our will is within His will, a grant from Him, a bestowal from His bounty and grace. It is within His will, no duality, no contradiction, no competition from us against God's command and decree. Affirming freedom in this sense does not contradict monotheism, nor set up rivals to God who judge like His judgment and command like His command, for our freedoms were precisely His command, His will, and His decree.
The third aspect of confusion is that some of those who address the issue of divine decree and predestination, qada wal qadr, and compulsion versus free will, understood qadr as God compelling man against his nature and disposition. This is an error you also fell into. God has negated compulsion from Himself with explicit verses. If we had willed, we could have sent down to them from the heaven a sign, the meaning being clear that He could have compelled belief through overwhelming signs, but He did not, as it is not His way to compel. There shall be no compulsion in acceptance of the religion. The right course has become distinct from the error. Quran 2:256. And had your Lord willed, those on earth would have believed, all of them entirely. Then, O Muhammad, would you compel the people in order that they become believers? Quran 10:99. Compulsion is not part of God's sunnah, way. Divine decree and predestination should not be understood as God compelling people against their natures. On the contrary, God decrees for every person according to the nature of his intention, and He wills for him according to the nature of His will, and He desires for him according to the nature of His desire.
There is no duality. God's directing affairs is precisely the same as the servant's free choice, because God directs everyone according to the inclination of his heart and the requirement of his intentions. Whoever desires the harvest of the hereafter, we increase for him in his harvest, and whoever desires the harvest of this world, we give him thereof, but there is not for him in the hereafter any share. Quran 42:20. In their hearts is disease, so Allah has increased their disease, and for them is a painful punishment because they habitually used to lie. Quran 2:10. And as for those who were guided, He increased them in guidance and gave them their righteousness. Quran 47:17. And He addresses the captives in the Quran. O Prophet, say to whoever is in your hands of the captives, if Allah knows any good in your hearts, He will give you something better than what was taken from you, and He will forgive you, and Allah is forgiving and merciful. Quran 8:70. God decrees and predestines, and He executes His decree and predestination according to the requirement of intention and the heart. If evil, then with evil. If good, then with good. This means there is no duality. Divine predestination is precisely the same as human free choice. There is no duality or contradiction. God directs us towards what we have chosen with our hearts and our intentions. Thus, there is no injustice, no coercion, no compulsion. As for he who gives and fears Allah and believes in the best reward, we will ease him toward ease. And as for he who withholds and considers himself free of need and denies the best reward, we will ease him toward difficulty. Quran 92:5-10. And you did not throw when you threw, but Allah threw. Here the throw of the servant and the throw decreed by the Lord meet, becoming one throw. This is the key to the mystery of divine decree and predestination. Upon the servant is the intention, and upon God is the enablement. If good, then with good. If evil, then with evil. And human freedom is not a fixed quantity, but rather a relative capacity subject to increase. Man can increase his freedom through knowledge, by inventing means, tools, and transportation. Man has managed to traverse the earth, defeat distances, and break the constraints of time and space. By studying the laws of the environment, he has managed to control it and harness it for his service, and learned how to overcome heat, cold, and darkness, thereby multiplying his freedoms in the realm of action. Knowledge was a means to break constraints and shackles and release freedom. The second means was religion, drawing support from God by drawing closer to Him, receiving from Him through revelation, divine communication, and support. This is the way of the prophets and those who follow their path. Solomon subjugated the jinn and rode the wind and spoke to birds with God's help and support. Moses split the sea. Jesus revived the dead, walked on water, and cured the blind, the leper, and the sick. We read about the saints, awliya, possessors of spiritual gifts, karamat, for whom the earth was folded and the unseen was unveiled. These are degrees of freedom acquired through striving in worship, drawing closer to God, and endearing themselves to Him, so He overflowed upon them from His hidden knowledge. It is knowledge once again, but this time it is divine, infused knowledge, al-ilm al-laduni. This is why Abu Hamid al-Ghazali summarizes the problem of free will and predestination by saying in two phrases, "Man has free will in what he knows and is predestined in what he does not know." He means by this that the more his knowledge expands, the wider the scope of his freedom becomes, whether the intended knowledge is objective science or divine infused knowledge. Materialist thinkers commit a grave error when they imagine man to be a prisoner of historical and class determinisms, making him a link in a chain of links from which there is no escape or refuge from submitting to the laws of economics and the movement of society, as if he were a straw in a current without arms and without will. The word they repeat tirelessly, as if it were an unbreakable law and inevitability, is class struggle. This is an erroneous word in scientific analysis, because there are no absolute determinisms in the human realm. Rather, it is at most a matter of likelihoods and probabilities. This is the difference between man and cogs, machines and material bodies. One can predict the sunset to the minute and second, and predict its independent movements for days and years to come. But as for man, no one can know what he harbors, what he hides in his intentions, or what he will do tomorrow or the day after. This cannot be known except on the way of probability, estimation, and conjecture. And that is assuming the availability of sufficient information for judgment. And everyone's predictions failed. The predictions of Karl Marx went astray. Communism did not begin in an advanced country as he predicted, but rather in a backward country. And the conflict between capitalism and communism did not intensify. Rather, the two drew closer